this episode comes with a huge personal announcement for myself. And I just told him, I said, my heart and my head are in conflict with one another. I just told my wife, this is, not only are we dropping the net, we're stepping into the water. And it may be 15 minutes or it may be an hour. We don't know how long it's going to take before he makes the way where there seems to be no way. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Stand Up, Stand Out podcast. I am your host, Joshua Warren, and I'm super excited to be with you guys for episode 17, calling this one Drop the Net. And you guys will get why I'm calling that here shortly. A little tease early on, guys. This episode comes with a huge personal announcement for myself that I am super excited to share with you guys. But before I dive into that, a couple things I just wanted to cover. First, if I sound a little bit under the weather, I am very tired. This weekend was super busy with great activity. We had my daughter's birthday party. We had family in town, church, all the things. And so I'm just a little run down, but I'm still here. I'm with y'all. But if I'm coughing a little bit, having to grab extra drinks of water, that's why. So just stick with me. I appreciate y'all's patience on that. But yeah, guys, I am super excited for y'all to be here and just to continue to see the way that the Lord is blessing this channel in just small ways. I've been getting some messages recently from people who have tuned in to recent episodes and just shared how the Lord has used that to really bless their own walk and how they've been encouraged about some things and challenged on some things. And so, guys, God's on the move. And that is all that I pray for here, that every single episode just blesses you all. And he uses it however he sees fit. And he's been gracious in doing that. I did want to say, too, a couple episodes ago, I shared about a reel that kind of went big on Facebook. It gotten up to like 200 or 300,000 views, I think, when I had posted the video originally. It's been a couple weeks, and the video's still growing. So it's at just over 430,000 views, which is crazy. But God's still using it. People are sharing it. I'm getting notifications almost every single day from people continuing to share it. And so it's just been really encouraging to see all these people commenting and asking questions. And so I just continue to pray that God uses it, even if it doesn't bless me from a worldly standpoint of like following or money or anything like that, that the Lord would just use it. And he's been doing that. So it's been really cool to see. But getting into this episode and why I'm calling it Drop the Net. You guys may have been able to tell from the last couple episodes, but I have been taking a lot of time talking with God lately and trying to figure out when I'm hearing from him. We've talked about this the last couple episodes. I covered it, last week and talking about why the valley is necessary and how sometimes God's calling us to enter into a valley and we don't know what it looks like. I talked with the Speak Lord episode about just having an attitude before God of Speak Lord, your servant is listening, and just being able to submit and surrender to his will over our own. And even in the episode prior to that, as I was addressing that Facebook reel that kind of went viral, just talking about how can we know when God is listening to us, and then how can we be sure to hear him back. And so I kind of wanted to let you guys in on what it is that I've been seeking God for and the response that he's given back. So some of you may know from my earlier episodes, but I am currently employed in the Carpenters Union. That's where I work full time. And then I work one part-time job for my church. And then I'm also going to seminary school full time online. married, 2 kids, podcast, right? I'm busy. You get the point. But my carpentry job has been really kind of up and down when it comes to hours and just available work. The state that I live in currently is not doing well with construction. There's just not a lot of new business coming into the state. And for that reason, construction has slowed way, way, way down. And so I had a couple weeks of family leave left over from when my son was born. And so my boss told me, hey, work's going to be basically non-existent for the next couple weeks. Why don't you take the rest of your family leave? So that's exactly what I did. So I've been actually home for the last 6 weeks now, which has been awesome to just finally have some time to catch up with my full-time job, my church job, my schooling, everything else. I've been running about 100 to 110 hour weeks every single week for the last about 17, 18 months or so. And so this break was much needed. It's been really nice to get to have time to just be home with my family, with my kids, to get to go to the park and the library and stuff like that, catch up on some projects around the house, be involved in my daughter's birthday and getting to help my wife create, decorations and all that. It's been a huge blessing. But as I've been on leave, what I've really been praying and asking the Lord is, what do you want from me next? Work is slowing down. Things are getting kind of weird. Is this, is this a turning point for my life? Is this somewhere where you're going to ask me to take a step or make a move in some way, shape, or form? Are you calling me to step away from my carpentry job? And I've shared on previous episodes about how I've just kind of felt kind of antsy, that I felt like the Lord was calling me to move in some way, shape, or form, but I didn't know really what that looked like. And so I've just felt like a horse in a starting gate, where I've just been kind of ready to run, but I don't know what I'm running to. And so as I've been home, I've just been really asking that of the Lord of okay, what do you have for me? Where do you want me to go? Well, last week, this all really came to a head. I had a day where I was at a coffee shop and I was actually working on a sermon for my youth ministry. And I had gotten a call from one of the pastors at our church, and he was asking me some questions about my job and, hey, what's it looking like when you go back and this, that, and the other. And they just really got my head stirring. And so when we got off the phone, I was trying to get back into the sermon and I just couldn't. My brain was just way too occupied with what are you going to do? You only have 3 weeks until you got to go back to work. And what if the hours aren't there? I'm the sole income for our family. My wife, thankfully, has been able to stay home with our kids. So financially, the weight or burden of providing has been on my shoulders. And so I started asking all these questions of okay, what do I do? Do I just go back to work and hope that there's hours? Do I go get this other full-time job? Do I take a couple of part-time jobs so I can focus more on ministry? And I just started wrestling in my head. So I stopped what I was doing. I packed up all my stuff and I took off out of town to the spot I just call the mountaintop. It's this spot outside of town, out in the wilderness, to just be alone with Jesus. And I texted my wife and I told her, I was like, hey, I did not get my sermon done. I'll figure it out. I'll get it done another time. I really need to go talk with the Lord about some things. So I went up to the mountaintop and I brought my Bible with me and I sat down and I just started talking. And thankfully, being out there, I'm completely alone. So I'm able to just talk out loud. And so I just started talking with the Lord. And I was just asking him okay, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go back to work and hope for the best? Or do you want me to go get employment here? Or do you want me to go here? And I was asking all these questions. And then as I was asking those things, the Lord just kind of brought to my mind, out of nowhere, I just thought of Matthew 4. So I was okay, Matthew 4. I'm going to go read Matthew 4. So I did. I got to Matthew 4 and I started reading. And then I got to verse 18 and it says this. Now, as Jesus was walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he, talking about Jesus, said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Excuse me. Verse 20, and it says, "Immediately they left their nets and followed him." And I was reading these verses out loud to myself. And when I got to verse 20, before I could even say the word immediately, I just started sobbing. All right. I am not too manly to admit this to you guys. I started bawling, and I don't normally cry. I'm actually really not a crier. It's funny, as I've preached more and more, I get more teary-eyed when I'm preaching just under like the weight of the Holy Spirit than I ever have in my entire life. But like normally on a day-to-day basis, I am not a crier. It's just not what I do. But I read that word immediately, and I just started bawling. And I didn't even really know why at first. And it was like in the back of my mind, I just heard him say, like, "Drop the net, follow me." And I'm like, okay, but like, what does that mean? You know, like, follow you where? And so I was like, okay, like, do you want me to quit my job and go get a full-time job at this company? And he's like, no, just drop the net, follow me. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to quit my job and go work for this company? And he's like, no, drop the net and follow me. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to go work these other part-time jobs? And he's like, no, drop the net and follow me. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, what are you saying? And then it just kind of hit me as I was sitting there like wrestling that he was saying, I want you to, this job that you have right now is kind of your safety net. You've been there for 5 years. You're comfortable. And yes, even though work right now is a little up and down from an hour standpoint, it's still kind of a safety net for you. It's kind of a place that you feel comfortable and all this stuff. And he was just saying, drop the net, like let go of the job. And my immediate response, what I actually said out loud on this mountaintop was, Lord, this net doesn't just feed me, it feeds my family. And immediately I heard in my mind, tell that to Peter. Because we know from the scriptures that Peter was married. And so when Peter dropped his net and immediately followed after Jesus, he was not just walking away from his vocation, his job, not knowing where he was going. He was walking away from his provision for his household. And yet it says immediately he dropped the net and he went with him, with no explanation of where they were going or what was next or what it would entail or how much it would pay or how he would pay his bills or pay taxes or anything else. He just dropped the net and he went. And I was just sitting there and man, I was just wrestling. I was just wrestling with the Lord. And I was running through all of the self-evaluation questions, because the one thing I wanted to make sure like 100% was that this was not my like emotion that I was hearing, or it was like my own heart motive that I was hearing. And so I'm asking all the questions. I'm like, Lord, if this is just because I'm tired of running 110-hour weeks and I don't want to have to do it anymore, then strip this feeling from me. I don't want it. I can go for a couple more months. Like, it's fine. I know you'll sustain me. Like, just take away this feeling like I'm supposed to leave. And he didn't. And then I'm like, Lord, if this is just my own ambition and my passion for ministry, because I'm so eager to get to do full-time ministry, and so I'm just trying to kind of force your hand, then strip it from me because I don't want it. And he didn't answer that prayer. And then I'm just like, I'm going down the whole list to like make sure that this isn't my personal thought, that this isn't my heart motive. I'm just asking the Lord like over and over, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And over and over and over again, he's like, drop the net and follow me. And so I spent some more time on the mountaintop. I called someone I was really close to, a good mentor of mine, and I just asked him to pray with me as I was up there. And I just told him, I said, my heart and my head are in conflict with one another. Because everything in my soul right now is screaming at me to leave my job. But my head is logically saying there is no way. If you walk away from this income, there is no way you are paying your bills and keeping your family like afloat, like keeping the house, keeping the car, having groceries in the pantry. Like there's no way to do it walking away from this amount of money. And so my head and my heart were just in conflict. And we talked for a little while, and he said, Josh, there's moments like these where we are called to step out in faith, and it's important that we trust that God will provide. And what I told him was, I completely trust that God will provide, because I do. As much as it doesn't make sense, and as much as it sounds absolutely certifiably insane, I have no question that if this is what God is calling us to, that he will absolutely provide a way. Not that we will get to keep our house and keep our car and all those things. He may take those things from us anyways as part of his plan for whatever reason. But I trust that if this is really what he's calling us to, that there's a reason and a purpose behind it. And ultimately it's going to turn out for our good. I was like, where my fear is right now is not in that I don't trust God. It's that I don't trust myself. Because what I told him was, if God is calling us to this and we are obedient, then anything that we lose from a worldly perspective will be a result of our obedience. And that I am totally okay with. But if I am doing this out of the wrong motive and out of the wrong heart, because I'm just tired and don't want to have to go back to 110-hour weeks, or because I'm just really eager to get into full-time ministry, and this is somehow, my own emotion taking over, and I am disobedient to what God has called me to, then anything that we lose will be a consequence of my disobedience, not a result. And that I won't be okay with. I just told him, I was like, if God's calling us to this and we're obedient, and because of that, we have to sell the house, as much as that would hurt, as long as my wife and I were on the exact same page that this is in fact what God called us to, if we lose the house, I'm okay with it. And I'm at peace with it, because clearly it's what he had for us in this season. And he needed us out of this house for whatever reason. We may never know, but we have to trust that it's right. But if I make this call and it's the wrong call, and then we lose the house, that burden and guilt is going to weigh on me like 1,000 tons. And that's really where my fear was. Excuse me. And so I went home, and I walked in the door, and I kissed the kids, and I went to kiss my wife, and she could tell that I had been bawling my eyes out because my eyes were all puffy and red and all this. And she's like, "Have you been crying?" And I was like, "Yeah, we need to talk." So she put on something for the kids to kind of distract them. And I told her what I was feeling. And I unpacked it all. And I was like, here's all the things that I was asking them, and here's all the things, And so I told her, I said, we need to be praying about this together, because if this is what he is calling me to, then his spirit will bring unity in this calling to both you and I. And if it's not what he's calling us to, then your spirit should have conflict with it. Like if you're really seeking out the Lord and he's raising something up in you that's saying, hey, this is not a good idea, and you've vetted it yourself and you've made sure it's not just your emotion or your fear, but you really feel like it's from the Lord, then I need to second guess what I thought I heard. And we need to spend some more time in prayer until we are on the same page about what it is we think God is calling us to. Because although I'm the leader as husband, I still submit to my wife's input and to what the Spirit may be telling her. And she is my safeguard, kind of my bumper, so that if I'm like, I think the Lord's calling us to this, well, the Spirit is not going to contradict itself. So if she is being told something completely different, then one of us has got it wrong and we need to investigate further. So I told her, I'm like, we need to be praying about this, because if this is really what the Lord's calling us to, you need to have confirmation in that. And if it's not what he's calling us to, then you're going to have a spirit of conflict. And then I need to know so that we can figure out what the next step is. So we spent a couple days praying about it. And then a couple days later, I asked my mom to come over. Shout out Mom for being an absolute rock star, as always. And watch our kids so that her and I could go to the mountaintop together to pray and spend some time with the Lord, just the two of us. And I'm not going to go into all the details just for time's sake, but as we were up on the mountaintop, the Lord just kept coming back with, we were asking while we were up there. The main thing when we got up there and we were asking the Lord was, all right, Lord, if you want us to drop the net, to walk away from this job, what are you going to have us walk towards? So if we're going to leave this company, do you want us to go to this company? Do you want us to go to these 3 part-time companies? Do you want us, are you going to provide a full-time ministry opportunity? Like, what are we doing here? And that was like what we kept praying over and over and over. And the whole time, the only thing he kept coming back with to both Ashley and I was, trust me. Trust me. Trust me. And we were like, okay, yeah, like we get that. We trust you, but like you need to show us the first step. If we're going to walk away from this, what are we going to walk towards? Just show us what the first step is and we'll go. And after like an hour and a half sitting on this mountaintop, it finally hit me as I'm praying out loud. I'm like, Lord, this entire time we've been asking for you to show us the first step. And the only thing you've come back with is trust me. Is that because you already have shown us the first step? That the first step is actually just dropping the net and walking away from something? And until we do that, you're not going to show us what the next step is, whatever step 2 and step 3 are? Is that why we don't feel like we're getting any messaging from you? Is because you're kind of going up, you're sitting up there going, I already told you what the first step is, and you guys haven't done it. And in reality, Ashley and I were kind of holding the net and going, okay, we'll drop the net if you show us what you're going to replace it with, so we know whether or not it's worth dropping it for. Because neither of us were saying it out loud, but that's exactly what we were thinking. It was like, we will drop the net the second you show us the thing in our future that's going to make this transition like comfortable and easy and logical. So if you can just show us how you plan on replacing this massive income, then we'll be more than happy to drop the net and follow you wherever you want us to go. And he was sitting up in there going, that's not how this is going to work. I need you to just trust me. Trust me, drop the net, and follow, and I'll show you where we're going. But I'm not going to tell you where we're going first. Because if you think about it, in Matthew 4, if Jesus had walked up to Simon Peter and Andrew and said, hey, drop your net, follow me. You're going to live broke and essentially homeless on the road for the next 3 years. And then you're going to become some of the most hated men in the world. You're going to become heavily persecuted, and you're going to end up dying absolutely egregious as death. Sound good? You guys in? They probably would have just kept mending the net. And the Lord's like, no, I have phenomenal plans worked out for you, but you got to drop the net first. I'm not telling you where we're going. All he said is, I'm going to make you fishers of men. So Ashley and I came home, and then later that night after we put the kids to bed, her and I just spent some time debriefing. Hey, was there anything during the prayer time that you were getting that we didn't actually talk about already? What are you thinking? And we just kind of came to this agreement that we were hearing the same thing. Before he's going to show us the next step, the first step is walking away. We have to drop the net. So I was like, okay, are we really going to do this? Are we going to walk away from this massive income that pays all of our bills right now with nothing else lined up? And like, yeah, I could just go get another full-time job. But the whole thing was that he kept saying like, no, sit still. Just drop the net and then I'll show you what's next. But until I show you what's next, you're just sitting still. And I'm like, are we sure that this is really what we're hearing? And my wife, being the absolute rock star that she is, was like, yep, we're on the same page. Let's do it. And so what was great about this and how the Lord works was we came to an agreement that Thursday night. Okay, we're in agreement. The Spirit is confirming to both of us, I'm going to leave my job. So I told her, on Monday morning, I'm going to call my boss and I'm going to tell him that I'm leaving. But I'm going to give him a month notice because I have 2 more weeks of leave. And I didn't want to give him a 2-week notice and then just be gone on leave the whole time. So I said, I'm going to give him a month notice and tell him I'm going to take leave for 2 more weeks. And then I'll come back for 2 more weeks if there's work to be had, and I'll work. And if there isn't work, then I can come turn in my tools and I'll be done, and, no hard feelings. So we agreed. We're like, all right, that's the plan. Well, that weekend I went and met with really my main mentor, the guy that I've been mentoring under for like a decade now, really since I was a little kid, but really closely for the last decade. And he is an amazing man of God, but he's also always has a plan, always has a system, very like conservative in the sense of like isn't a big risk taker. He's calculated. I'll put it that way. He's calculated. And if he's watching this, I love you, brother, but you know exactly who I'm talking about, and you know that I'm not wrong. Excuse me. And I was a little scared to tell him because I was like, man, I don't want him to think that this is just my flesh or that I'm making the wrong decision. And like, this is a huge, huge risk to just walk away from my income, no backup plan, not going to try and go get a job immediately unless the Lord tells me to. Like, I'm just going to kind of free float here for a minute and figure out what's going on. And so I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. We may end up getting into a little bit of an argument, and I was like praying about it, like, Lord, please, let this go well. And I told him, and immediately he just looks at me and he goes, Josh, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the Lord told me that you needed to leave your job, but I couldn't tell you that. The Lord had to be the one to tell you that. He goes, this doesn't surprise me at all. This is exactly what I've been hearing from the Lord as I've been praying for you. And so I was like, whoa, okay, that is not at all what I expected, but also like, this is great confirmation for me because I trust his walk with the Lord so much. And I also know how he is, that he's not a natural risk taker. And so that the fact that he's kind of confirming and affirming this decision was powerful to me. And then Monday rolled around and I called my boss and he answered the phone and we start talking. And immediately he's like, "You're leaving, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how did you know that?" And he's like, "Well, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, I was talking with the Lord and I asked him, 'When am I getting Josh back?' And he just clearly said, 'You're not.'" And he goes, "So I've just been waiting for your call for the last 2 to 3 weeks because I just had a feeling you weren't coming back." And when I heard that, man, I was like, dude, thank you, Lord. Like, God is so good to just affirm to my wife and to myself that we're doing the right thing. Because all of these people are just affirming it, that they were hearing the same things, even though we weren't talking. They had no idea that I was contemplating this decision. I wasn't telling them what I was thinking. I wasn't letting them in on it because I didn't want anyone's personal view to bleed into the decision. I wanted it to be between my wife and myself and the Lord. And that was really it. And since then, every person that I've told has just been super excited, super supportive, just affirming that if this is what the Lord has for you, then it's going to be great. And it's been a huge, huge blessing. And we are super excited to see what the Lord's going to do. But I also wanted to just point to this story in Joshua 3, because this is exactly where I feel like we are at right now as a family, is the Israelites are getting ready to cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan to start, conquering and taking the promised land. And God tells Joshua to send the priest with the Ark of the Covenant into the Jordan, and that God's going to stop the water so that the people can cross. So, a couple of things context-wise that you have to recognize about the story. One, every one of the Israelites has no doubt heard the story from their grandparents or great-grandparents about crossing the Red Sea. So you'd have to imagine that they kind of have this expectation. If they're told, hey, the priests need to step into the river and then God's going to stop the water and everyone's going to cross, they're expecting a Red Sea moment where they're going to step into the water, water's going to part, they're going to walk right through, be done. 2, it says that the Jordan is at flood stage, which means the river is running at super high capacity and it is raging river. So getting into it is rather risky and not exactly ideal. It's also slightly different because in the Red Sea story, they didn't have to go wade out into the water before it parted, right? It parted as they walked through it. So this is a little bit of a different scenario, but you have to imagine the Israelites are expecting the same result. Well, if you read the story, starting in verse 14 of chapter 3, it says, "So when the people set out from their tents to cross the Jordan, with the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant before the people, and when those who carried the Ark came into the Jordan, and the feet of the priests carrying the Ark were dipped into the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all the days of the harvest, the waters which were flowing down from above stood and rose up in one heap a great distance away at Adam. The city is beside Zarethan." So in this instant, instead of them stepping into the water and then the water parting right then and there, it says that when they stepped into the water stopped and started to pile into a giant heap, but it says a great distance away at the city of Adam. Well, the city of Adam was actually 20 to 30 miles from the location where the Israelites are believed to have crossed the Jordan for this event. And what that means is that the water parting was out of their eyesight. With it being 20 to 30 miles upstream, even if it was perfectly flat land, the human eye cannot see that far. So they would have had no idea that it had stopped up there. But it also means that it wasn't immediate. That when they stepped into the water, they had to sit and wait, because even if the water stopped here, they'd have to wait for the rest of the water that after it had stopped, the rest of the water still had to flow all the way down that 20 to 30 mile stretch before it got past the Israelites and they noticed that the water had been stopped, right? Excuse me. And so this, by all means, doesn't meet the expectation of the Israelites. The priests get the Ark of the Covenant, they step into the water, and everyone's like, ah! And then nothing happened. And then a minute goes by, and nothing happens. And then 10 minutes go by, and nothing happens. They don't know per se, because it's hard to estimate exactly how fast the water moves at flood stage, but there's guesses in time that they were standing in that water from anywhere from 15 minutes to over an hour before they noticed that the water had actually stopped. But even if you take the smallest estimate, 15 minutes, don't you think for the people that would have felt like a lifetime when they had this expectation that as soon as their toes touched the water, it was just going to part and then they were going to just cross the Jordan River? Every second and every minute that passed by, 15 minutes would have felt like a lifetime. And there was probably people on the shore going, hey, are we sure that Joshua heard right from God? Because nothing's happening. Like, there's nothing going on here. And maybe the priests need to, like, get back out. Maybe they didn't do it right. You know, maybe they were supposed to, like, jump into the water. Or maybe Joshua was supposed to raise his staff like Moses always did. And there had to be some sort of conversation as the minutes went by where people were kind of like, are you guys, like, was there a bad connection on the phone when y'all were talking? Like, what's going on here? Why isn't anything happening? And I just thought so much about this story as I was talking with my wife, because I just told her, I said, there is a chance that we walk away from this job, we drop the net, and it's like stepping into the river. And then God's not going to immediately follow it up with the next opportunity. He's not going to tell me the next day after I'm done with my company, okay, I want you to go work this full-time job, or I want you to go take these multiple part-time jobs, or I want you to, I'm going to give you this ministry opportunity. We may not get that answer right away. We might spend a week at home praying, and the Lord's just going to be silent. Of just sit still, wait. And then a week might turn into 2, and 2 weeks might turn into a month. And it's like, how long do we just sit and wait for him to speak? I'm really sorry for all the coughing. But it's like, I just told her, I said, we need to pray for 2 things. One, that whenever God does speak, that we hear him. And to be clear, like, for those of you that don't know me personally, I try to say this as humbly as I can, but I am not scared to work, okay? Like I said, I've been working mad hours for over a year now. Doesn't bother me. Like, yes, I get tired, but I can work. And so if the Lord told me tomorrow, okay, I want you to go get this full-time job or these 3 part-time jobs or whatever, I'm all for it. I'll go get those jobs. As long as that's where the Lord wants me, I'm game. I do not care. But as I walk away from this job, if I'm asking the Lord, where do you want me next? Where do you want me next? And he says, sit still as I continue to prepare you or the opportunity or both, then I'm going to be obedient to that as well. And like, I still have things to do. I've still got my church work. I've got school. I've got the podcast. I've got other things that I'm still responsible for, including leading my family in the ministry I have in my own home. But as far as my actual vocation, if he's not giving me answers or he's telling me to sit still, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I'm going to be obedient to whatever he's calling me to. But I told my wife, I was like, we need to first pray that if God tells us where to go, that we just do it. So if he tells me to go get this full-time job, even if it's a job I don't want to do, I'll go do it. Or if it's these jobs, whatever it is, whenever he speaks, we go. But I said the second thing we really need to pray for is that he would help guard our hearts towards the comments of well-meaning individuals who, out of love and care for us, are standing on the shore watching us sitting still in the river at flood stage going, hey, maybe you heard wrong, get out of the river, or try and do this instead, or hey, maybe go over here. And they're trying, out of well-meaning intentions, because they love us and because they want what's best for us, they see us sitting in this river that could easily sweep us away, and they don't think God's really doing anything. And so they're like, hey, maybe you heard wrong, or try this or try that. And I told her, I was like, we have complete confidence in this decision. We cannot budge. When we step into the river, we have to wait. And what's beautiful about this story is what you come to realize is where the water stopped at the city of Adam. Adam was a pagan city, and they worshiped a false god that they believed to be the god of water. And so God is really putting an exclamation point on the Israelites' arrival by telling the surrounding cities, hey, the God that these people follow is the one true God, and he's the one who actually controls the water, not this fake little pagan idol that you worship to. He is nothing and he has no control. The Israelites' God, he's the God of the universe. He's the God of the water, of the rivers and the seas. And whenever he tells the rivers to stop, they stop for his people. And so God was using that as a way to testify to his glory and to his power and to his strength. But the Israelites didn't know that. They just got in the water, and then seemingly to them, nothing happened, at least for a little while. And then finally, they watched the last of the water go by, and they had a dry riverbed to walk across, and they crossed safely, and they built a memorial of remembrance, and it was this thing of beauty. And so I just told my wife, this is, not only are we dropping the net, we're stepping into the water. And it may be 15 minutes or it may be an hour. We don't know how long it's going to take before he makes the way where there seems to be no way. And however he provides that way, I just want to be ready and humble enough to be obedient, to just hold everything loosely. And if he says, what I have in store for you requires that you sell your house, take it. What I have in store for you means you lose your truck, take it. What I have in store for you means, bean and rice diet, no vacations, no, coffee shop trips, whatever it is. Like, I'm at a place of just complete surrender of wherever the Lord's calling us to, we'll go. And of course, I have my own dream. My own dream, my heart's desire is that this leads me into full-time ministry in some way, shape, or form. But even in that, I'm not going to just chase whatever ministry opportunity will just pay me to keep the bill, to keep my bills paid and keep the lights on. It's I only want to be in a ministry opportunity that he's actually calling me to. So if he said it's the podcast, which I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I really don't think that it is. But if he decided to and say, hey, no, the podcast is it, and I'm going to bless it, and you're going to wake up tomorrow with 100,000 subscribers or whatever, then praise be to God. I'm going to pour all of my heart, soul, and energy into the podcast. Like I said, I really don't think that this is what that is, but he could change my mind. But if he says, your ministry opportunity is with this organization or at this church or whatever, then I'll go. It's not that I'll just take whatever job opening I can find, because there are job openings. As far as if I just wanted to go be a full-time pastor somewhere, I know where there's places where I could just go do that right now. But I don't want to go somewhere that he doesn't want me, even if it's my dream job or what I want from my life. And so it's not just about getting into full-time ministry. It's about getting into full-time ministry where he wants me in full-time ministry. And if he doesn't want me in full-time ministry yet and says, instead, I want you to go load trucks at Amazon all night long and then wake up and go bust tables at this restaurant and then go, deliver packages and then, still come home and do your church work and go preach at youth group and then do online schooling and raise your kids and all that, then bring it on. If that's what he has me doing, to God be the glory. I would have to trust that for whatever reason, he's putting me in those scenarios so that I can be a light in those environments to help spread the gospel to other people or to be an encouragement or to teach me a life lesson. I have no idea. But the truth of the matter is, as I drop the net, I'm literally dropping our safety net. I've got no idea what's on the other side of this. I don't know what's in store for us, but I trust that it's going to be good because I know the God I serve. And I know that if this is what he's calling us to, and I believe with everything in me that it is, that it's going to be good. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. I wanted to share because I feel like this is going to be one of those seasons of my life that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I'm going to look back at this moment as like, this was the time when everything changed. Because this is the first time in my life I can truly say that I know with everything in me, I'm doing exactly what the Lord has called me to, exactly what he has asked me to do. It is the first time I've been at a place of just complete surrender and obedience before the Lord, and it feels so good. Like I am not terrified, but a little anxiously excited, I guess, to see where this takes us. But I'm good. I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be awesome. And I got no idea where it leads. It may be that I have to shut down the podcast because we're having to sell the house and, move in, to a rental or an apartment or I have no idea. I've got no idea. But what I do know is that he has called me to drop the net. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. And so I will keep you guys updated. This channel exists so that I can share what God's doing in my life and as a hope of just encouraging you guys and providing a community where people can come and share what God's doing in their life. And so I will continue to share with y'all. I'll keep you guys updated with whatever it is he calls us to. We may be sitting in the water for a while with no real life update. I have no idea, but I do know it's going to be good. So I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Thank you for being here and just for giving me your time, truly. Like it is such an honor. It is not lost on me that when you guys come and take the time to sit down and listen to my content, that is an hour, or so of your life that you are entrusting me with in hopes that it blesses you and it gives you some encouragement or it gives you something to chew on. And so thank you, truly, because I know time is precious. And so I hope I never waste it. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope you get an opportunity to just go talk with God and that you would hear him talk back and that you would find yourself at a place of surrender in whatever way, shape, or form that means for your life. So guys, I hope you have a fantastic week. I will see you next Monday, Lord willing. And do not forget to stand up and stand out for Christ. Peace. Hey guys, thank you for checking out another episode of the Stand Up, Stand Out podcast. I would just like to encourage all of you to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are on social media, I am on all platforms at the SUSO Podcast. That's the SUSO Podcast. You can find me everywhere, so go drop me a follow. And lastly, if you're here and you want to know why I started this podcast and kind of the mission behind it, I would encourage you to check out this episode right here. And if you want to know what it means to stand up and stand out for Christ, I would encourage you to check out this video right here. Outside of that, guys, I hope you have a great week and I'll see you next episode. Peace.